I call this meeting of the Hurst-Euless-Bedford Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Good evening to everyone. It's great to see a big crowd out here tonight. We're going to start tonight with an invocation from Pastor Marisha White from the Freedom Church.
Thank you. Dear God, thank you for your love towards us. Lord, thank you for your hearts and the minds of the individuals in this room this evening. Their willingness and passion to do what it takes to make sure all students, regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, or language, succeeds in education, as well as their overall well-being. Lord, bless this meeting and the goals set to advance all students, teachers, and administrators in HEB ISD. We love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right. Thank you, Pastor White. Next, we're going to have our Pledge of Allegiance, which tonight will be led by Rogan Morin and Jaden Ely from Shady Brook Elementary. The flag's right over here. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, if you stay up here for just a second.
Are you,
Rogan?
tell us your name.
Jane.
Okay, while Mr. Romero gives Jaden his certificate, I'd like to tell you a little bit about this remarkable student. He not only excels academically as an honor roll student, but also serves as a dedicated safety patrol member, assisting with opening car doors for his peers with kindness and care. His compassionate nature extends beyond his role on the safety patrol, as Jaden is known for his warm demeanor and willingness to help others in need. Additionally, he demonstrates his intellectual prowess as a valued member of the Whiz Quiz team, contributing to the team's success with his sharp mind and quick thinking. Jaden embodies the qualities of leadership, academic excellence, kindness, and intellectual curiosity, making him a respected and admired member of the school community.
Thank you, Jaden. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Tonight, the Board of Trustees is meeting in its regularly scheduled monthly meeting to officially act on items included on the posted agenda. The Board welcomes and appreciates comments and input from the community. Open forum is provided at each meeting to allow the public to address the Board. There will be two open forums tonight. Open forum number 1 is to hear requests regarding agenda items only. Open forum number 2 is to hear requests or make comments regarding non-agenda items and will be heard at the end of the meeting. Those addressing the Board are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes per meeting. The speaker should identify his or her name, group affiliation if any, and make a brief presentation with an identified solution if one is sought. Remarks should be addressed to the Board as a whole. Oral presentations may not include charges against any employee or board member by name. It is my responsibility to determine if the person addressing the Board has attempted to resolve the concern informally or through the district's complaint policies. If not, the speaker will be directed to follow the appropriate policy. The Board requests that all presentations be made in a courteous, respectful, and professional manner and asks that speakers monitor their own behavior. If you wish to speak during one of the open forums, please fill out one of the cards located on the table in the entry hall. We'll now review the Board activity chart. Mr. Campos.
We've done a lot since we've met last. Two things I just want to highlight, not everything we do. Number one is that I'm one of the board members, as well as many of our community, that participates in Trojan Talk. I just want to say this year has been really exciting, and the fact that I've gotten to know the kids to the level that I know their names and I know what they're doing afterwards. The curriculum is just excellent, being in a high school classroom and talking with them. And this past time, we really talked about what they're doing next, and getting to hear firsthand and meet with them And for those of you that don't know the program, they get together at 10th, 11th, and 12th. So you get to stay with some of the same students. And it's just really neat to see that happen. And then the second thing is that we had opportunity to do a tour of the district with our board ambassadors. And I just think that's always such an exciting thing to put them on a bus and show them all the neat things that are going on in our district and areas that they may not know, and see different regions of our school district.
Ms. Cole?
Yes, it's been a very busy month, even with a week of spring break in there. We got to, each member of this board gets to take 4 or 5 schools and distribute the invitations for the employee celebration, hand deliver them, and thank the employees that are Teachers of the Year, and thank the employees that are at milestone anniversaries, and thank the employees that are retiring one-on-one. And it's really a joy to do. Besides which, we get to walk the school with the principal or an assistant principal. And so I wanted to make a special shout out to Shannon Huber, Talana Bean, Erica Martin, Christine Cruz, and Michael Smith, who spent some time with me and showed me their campuses. There were lots of other things, but a couple other things I want to highlight is I attended the Bistro Day at the Buinger Career and Technical Education Academy. The culinary students, every once in a while, kind of out of nowhere, send an invitation that they're going to have a Bistro Day, and you can have lunch over there. And they did such a great job of creating the menu and making the menu and serving that day. And Mr. Romero and I sat together that day and had a nice lunch together. I also read to a 2nd grade class, I think, at Meadow Creek Elementary for Read Across America Week, and attended the Awards of Excellence. And if you've never attended that, I highly recommend you attend that as well. Senior students in each academic discipline are chosen as the outstanding math student, so to speak, or English language student or foreign language student. Anyway, there's a long list of them. And for that night, they get to be honored, and they get to honor a mentor teacher. And so it's a really great night. Lots of community members there because it's sponsored by the Education Foundation. And so it just really is a great way for us to sort of show off some of our brightest students. And I won't bore you with any more, except for one more thing I forgot. For the first time this year, I got to attend the Teacher of the Year luncheon, and it was really a great celebration of the Teachers of the Year from every one of our campuses. They got to walk the red carpet, and some of them even waved from the red carpet. She knows who she is. And we had a great day. It was great to get to see all of them and thank them for their work.
I guess the only thing that I could mention that hasn't been mentioned already is the Awards of Excellence celebration that we had on Thursday night at LD Bell. Awards of Excellence is a very unique, Extra Mile, sorry. She already said Awards of Excellence. Extra Mile Awards is a different award ceremony that we do, and it's for more of our operational people. We give awards for transportation, custodial, food service, secretaries, teacher assistants. So all the people who make this district go, who basically aren't in the classroom teaching, well, some of them are, but it recognizes those who've kind of gone above and beyond what their job description calls for. They do that little bit extra, and they get recognized by somebody and get put up for this award. So our crossing guards, our SROs, there's a lot of categories, but it's a lot of fun to be able to honor those folks and to recognize the contribution they make to HEB ISD and the work that we do educating kids. So it was a fun night. All right, any comments, Dr. Harrington?
A couple things. Bel Air Elementary, we rebuilt the Bel Air Elementary. Well, the old Bel Air has been taken down. If you have not driven by that location and seen the new Bel Air sitting there, it is striking. It changes that whole corner, and it's something, if you have not driven by, you need to. Very impressed. And also, I talked to Dobie, looks like that will be coming in under budget.
Oh, that's good to hear.
The only other thing are both Trinity and Bell one-act play have continued to advance, and they will be performing again Thursday in Keller at Timber Creek.
All right, any clarifications?
None at this time.
All right, I'd like to say a quick thanks to our greeters this evening. You may have noticed the 2 students in the green blazers as you enter tonight. These students are part of the HEB ISD Student Ambassador Program, which is a select group of students chosen through an application process and an interview process to be the face of the district. They are trained to assist with public relations and communication services and are given the opportunity to positively promote HEB ISD while developing leadership skills. Tonight we have Natalie Gall, a senior at Trinity, and Susiwa Afunia, a junior at Trinity. This past year, we've been using this opportunity to hear the voice of our district students by asking the ambassadors a question. Come on up to the microphone. And this is this month's question. An important aspect of leadership is clear communication. It is more than just having a clear message. You must become skilled at listening to those who can't explain themselves and skilled at explaining to those who don't understand. As a leader, you must become the path to clarity. Please tell the board the ways you have used your communication skills to be the path to clarity.
Good evening. My name is Solsiwa Afunia, and I'm a junior at Trinity High School. I'm class president, and I'm also an IB student. When I heard the question, I thought of a flashlight. I am just a tool for everyone else to help flourish and see the true best potential of themselves. I truly think that in our country and in our community, a lot of our leaders sometimes tend to forget that everyone that they lead is their own individual, unique person. I've learned that leadership is not just a title that you get to put on. It's not just something you get to put on your college apps, and it's not just something that you get to post on social media about. It's something that you have to truly put yourself into so that way not only you can be successful, but everyone else who you lead. I think that clear communication is one of the best tools to do this. From painstakingly organizing homecoming decorations to leading class council general meetings, I've learned that clear communication is the best way to avoid disruptances and issues. Through clear communication, I've been able to see not only myself be the best possible version I can of myself, but also my fellow class council officers. I've seen firsthand what clear communication can do and how it can help everyone reach success and be the best version of themselves. Thank you.
Hi, good evening again. My name's Natalie Gall, and I'm a Trinity senior. And I'd like to thank you for your question, first off. And while I was thinking about how I was going to respond to this question, the only personally significant answer that came to mind is the fact that I'm an older sister to 2 siblings. In my household, the responsibilities that come with being the eldest daughter are quite lengthy, but one of these responsibilities that I hold is helping teach my sister and brother valuable life lessons that I used with simple analogies. And one that came to mind that is really special to me is I taught my sister specifically that each person has something special about them that makes them unique, just like flowers in a garden. Each flower is unique and beautiful in its own way, and even if it's not as big or colorful as some other flowers, that's what makes them special. The same goes for people. We all have something special about us, our talents and abilities that make us unique and valuable, even if it's not always obvious at first glance. With this analogy, I hope I was able to teach my sister to nourish herself and her capabilities just like someone taking care of flowers in a garden. It's been some time since I've told her this garden analogy. I mean, it was years ago. I don't know how wise I thought I was, but whatever. But a simple analogy won't be able to help someone absolutely grasp the idea of confidence because, let's face it, who here actually can absolutely grasp it? We're still working on that. But despite this, having the leadership ability to simplify such a complex aspect of human nature by comparing it to a plant makes the information digestible for my sister. But this capability can apply to other leadership instances, like the classroom, making it an indispensable trait. While I cannot be her actual path to clarity, I can only hope that my lessons have brought her better understanding, ease with navigating her young life, and inspiration to keep nourishing her garden.
Thank you, Natalie and Cecilia. We really appreciate your answers. They were very well thought out, and everyone can see why we're so proud of this program and proud of these students who participate in it. Next, we're going to hear from the LD Bell and Trinity Senior Class Officers. Ms. Hollander.
It's that time of year, and while they're making their way up, I wanted to find out, did the class president want to speak, want to do any speaking? Okay, come on up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brilliance Phillips, and I'm the senior class president at Trinity High School. And I just wanted to thank you guys so much for allowing us to be here today and just witness this, like our leaders in our community. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Wia Kawa, and I'm the senior class president at LD Bell High School. We're here to give some of our board members some special invitations to our future senior class events, and once again to thank you for the work you're doing here. Thank you.
Now, y'all go back and tell everyone at Bell I had on blue tonight, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For those of you who don't know our tradition, this is that time of year when there are many, many, many events for the seniors, and we're very proud of them, and we get invited to those, so thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, class officers. Next, we will be hearing about the TASBO Award of Merit for Purchasing Operations. Ms. Hollander.
So I first want to invite our purchasing department up along with their fearless leader, Debbie Williams, for a photo, and Dr. Harrington as well. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the award. Members of our purchasing team were awarded this award on February 21st at the 2024 TASBO Annual Conference. At the conference, this Award of Merit was established in 2009 to recognize Texas school districts, open enrollment charters, and education service centers that are committed to following professional standards in acquisition and for goods and services. For 2024, only 77 out of 1,200 school districts met the requirements. To quote the president of TASBO, or I guess she's the executive director, I'm sorry, we're proud of the work the honorees have done to streamline school purchase operations. They comply with regulations and set standards for how to utilize taxpayer dollars. These organizations have not only demonstrated their professional acumen by documenting their district's policies and procedures, but have also shared these best practices with colleagues throughout the state. And at TASBO, it is my understanding that you do get to share these talents with your fellow purchasing and business officials. So thank you very much for all that you've done for our district.
Way to go.
Congratulations, Purchasing Department. All right. Next, we will be handing out certificates of appreciation for donations that have been given to the school district. This evening, Board Member Fred Campos will be handing out their certificates. The first certificate covers 2 different donations, and they're both from the Bedford Heights PTA, and they are for gifts to Bedford Heights. The first gift was for $5,205.56 for a donation to be used to purchase a poster printer that will enable the staff to print graphs, signs, and other media that will be used in classrooms and throughout the building. The second gift that's covered by this certificate is a donation that will be used to help pay student cafeteria IOUs at Donna Park Elementary. Suzanne Stroman is receiving the certificate. And the second certificate, Suzanne, don't go away, is for a gift. This certificate is to Blackbaud Giving Fund for a gift to Bedford Heights Elementary. This was an $800 donation to go towards the purchase of paper and printer toner that will be used by the staff for classroom use at Bedford Heights Elementary. So the total of those gifts this month was $6,107.06. All right, we're ready for open forum number 1. No cards. Okay, so this time the board will adjourn into closed session. Pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551, the board will adjourn into closed session pursuant to sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.076.
myself.
The board will now reconvene into open session. Item 9.01, consider approval of Hurst Junior High School principal for the 24-25 school year. I'll accept a motion.
I move the board approve Bianca Johnson, thank you, as the principal of Hurst Junior High.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, for the board to approve Bianca Johnson as the principal of Hurst Junior High. Please vote. And that motion passes. Ms. Johnson? Where'd she go? Welcome to HEB. We always like giving new folks the opportunity to introduce anyone who you have here with you.
Yes, so I have a small piece of my tribe here with me. I have Annie, I have Candace, and I have Josh, and then cute little Jack out there with Noah.
All right. Welcome. Congratulations. All right, we're ready for the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that any board member would like removed? Then I'll accept a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. Item 11.01, disbursements for the month of February 2024. Any questions? Item 11.02, report on resignations and retirements. Any questions? All right, reading 3D and M-Class Math MOI report. Dr. Norgard.
You have two reports from me this evening, and they may be brief depending on how long my voice holds out. So I'm in a slightly deeper register than normal tonight. So I do know you had the opportunity to look over this, so I may parse down my statements, but I'll answer any questions that you have. So reading 3D and M-Class Math, middle of the year, of course, is tied to our strategic plan related to early literacy. A reminder as we're looking at this and looking at trends over time that we did have new baselines last year for Lectura and SEL because the new Spanish language instruments were introduced by the Amplify company, and that we moved our comprehension from TRC to BAS. So we're still letting those new baselines norm out over a couple of years. So in general, you'll see in this report increases almost everywhere when we're looking at previous year's performance, and our cohort performance is very similar to our historical trends. So we did see some slight dips over last year's kindergarten performance when it comes to our fluency measures. But when you look at their own performance, they've been very stable from where they were testing at the beginning of the year and where they are now testing at middle of the year. And remember, what they're expected to do has increased. So even though our number meeting that, that means all of those students have grown to that new expectation. In our comprehension piece, we're holding even to our comparison over last year's kindergartners. We have historically seen, you'll see it in our first and second grade, that comprehension, what is expected at the middle of year versus beginning of year kindergarten, because kindergarten, beginning of year, I'm learning how to hold a book. Do I have it right side up or upside down? But by middle of year, there's quite a bit of expectations. And just as I said when I reported on MAP, we historically, when you look at all of our trend data, we get our biggest gains from middle to end of year in almost every grade. It's just we've really perfected those interventions and things. So we, of course, keep our eye on anything that goes downward, but we look at how does that compare versus our usual pattern of behavior there. So in first grade, we're trending up in both our English and Spanish performance. Over their own performance in fluency, we are seeing a little bit of a dip here, so that is something that we look at. It's that comprehension that we always see that big drop. So this group, when they were kindergartners, had a more consistent upward performance. But in addition to the summer slide, we're going to watch the students and be sure the appropriate interventions are provided between now and EOI. Comprehension, again, compared to different group of students that were in first grade last year, we are trending upwards. There, again, that pattern, when this group was kindergartners, you see that same pattern you just saw with this year's kindergartners. Second grade, we saw huge gains when we made that switch, the new baseline in our lectura, the Spanish measure for fluency last year. So came down a little bit, but still when you look at that long trend of where we've been, that is very consistent with our performance. A little bit up and down when you look at this group, but within a range there that we find appropriate and measuring along the way. Again, those classroom teachers have more and more measures. They are having more fun than we are. So little enthusiasm here for our, here we go. Here's comprehension. No, okay. We are trending up versus last year's group on comprehension with our second grade. But this ongoing pattern that middle of year, what's expected, we can come in strong at beginning of the year and we're going to ramp back up for the end of year. But middle of year is where we tend to see our dips in comprehension based on meeting the targets that are established. It does not mean that our students are moving backwards. It means an expectation has scooted up and we're just not getting all of our students to that expectation. So questions about reading 3D? Okay. M-class math would be tied to our strategic plan for early numeracy. This is the one you've heard me talk about since we started. We started when we needed to have a measure for early numeracy. There were very few options available. We have been doing a study along with our research coordinator with Lauren Allen, really looking at our options, and we are planning to move our K2 next year to MAP math off of M-class math as our measure. So K2 would be in math consistent with the 3-6 in reading. We cannot move K2 for reading also to MAP because that DIBELS is legislatively required as a particular approved instrument versus on the math side, we have different choices. So we're gonna do that to see if, while we could track growth here, just the true cutoffs of what they were expecting were really difficult when even some of our math teachers can't get beyond yellow at a kindergarten level. So, but for what it is, we have continued to improve in that measure. We just don't think it's measuring as well as it could be. So we see improvement across kinder, first grade based on different years. Each year we get stronger. They're improving over their own performance. Second grade continuing each year at mid-year with different groups of second graders. We've improved. And that tracking across a year, summer slide, come back the next year and strong. So those have all been predictable performance, but we just want a measure that's going to, we feel, be more accurate, not just the tracking that we're improving, but the true performance level for our students. So questions about M-class math? Okay.
All right, so now we're going to hear about the Reading Academy.
Mm-hmm. I would love to stand here and tell you I don't have to use my voice because there were absolutely no changes. But yes, there have been some changes from TEA about Reading Academy. So I am here for our annual update. And hopefully this is, some years I've given you 2 updates in the spring because even between my update they give more. But We're going to get it right here, right now. So tied to our strategic plan for early literacy. So just kind of a recap of where we were, because there's no better slide to show you the history of these changes than this one right here. Because each year I've brought to you, here's what we were doing this past year. Well, in the 23-24 school year, we had one local implementation blended cohort that finished up in the fall. It had started in the previous school year, but finished in the current school year. Then we had a local implementation of the Science of Teaching Reading, so the 7-day instead of 10-day cohort. It started in July. It's on track to finish in April. And oh yes, then we had a bilingual comprehensive cohort working with Region 11 as our authorized provider that started in September. So right there you can see all the variation that continues to happen. We are continuing to move towards, and I have some recommendations, what we're trying to do this year. We're hoping we can continue year after year. We'll see what new changes TEA has in store for us. So our continuing plan, on this previous slide, when we had this Science of Teaching Reading comprehensive cohort, you may or may not remember when I brought the latest changes, was this idea that our new teachers coming out, fresh out of college, now had a Science of Teaching Reading certificate. It did not mean they were exempt from Reading Academy, but it meant they only needed a 7-day version instead of 10. So on the 3-year implementation cycle, and we did everything right and trained all the teachers that we could, so we thought the only teachers that would still need Reading Academy would be the Science of Teaching Reading. Well, due to grade changes or teachers that we ended up from other districts, we found that we still had teachers that needed Reading Academy and had not had Science of Teaching Reading. So they couldn't be in this cohort. So our plan moving forward is we're going to stick with the traditional 10-day. If we have some people that have that Science of Teaching Reading certificate and we can work with them on, you're not needed on this day, but at least we've planned for the full 10 days so that if we have any others, they can be a part of that cohort. And we're going to start launching, you saw those 3 different cohorts for last year. We're going to stick with a June cohort launch moving forward. We have a group launching this June. June still counts as this current school year in the world of Reading Academy, and the law states that they need to begin, a K-3 teacher must begin Reading Academy in their first year of a K-3 assignment. So since June still counts as this year, instead of taking a brand new teacher that's coming in fresh out of school and in your first year in this assignment, we're going to pull you 10 days. We're letting you have this year in your classroom, but starting in June, we're going to grab you for some summer days and moving into next year, but it needs to be June to still count as that first year. Bilingual teachers will still send through Region 11 if we have any. So our upcoming cohort, we do expect the summer's cohort this June to have about 50 teachers. There's technically 46 right now, but as staffing is getting finalized, you know, our principals are hiring right now. We just had that job fair. So to see if there are any other new hires that will need this in addition to the teachers we already had and know about. But at current count of those 46 and possibly close to 50, 21 of them are special education teachers, including those that are in roles that can be extremely challenging to have substitutes. You know, if you're in a FOSSI classroom or something like that, we never want to take our teachers away from our students. We want them in school with their students teaching, but especially in some of those. So we got a little out of the box in our scheduling this year. So to minimize that classroom impact, we're going to capitalize on 2 summer days, that they either come for 2 days in June and 2 days in July. These participants were given those dates several months ago so that they could make their summer plan accordingly, and that's why we gave them options. They'll receive a stipend for coming on those non-work days, but that means that's 2 days we don't have to pull them and get subs. We'll also use our August 6th district PD day as one of the 10 days. So for those other 7 days, each time it's offered, you know, Unit 4 would be offered on a Wednesday where they could have a sub and they come during the school day, or they could come on that Saturday. If they come on the Saturday, we would stipend them for that time. So for our budget, it comes out about the same. I have some numbers for you, whether we're paying for a sub or paying for the stipend, but that gives us an option to really be flexible with, it's better to be in your classroom or come on a Saturday. So here's really what that does to our budget. Many of these are the same numbers you see each year. We've got to pay a cohort fee, the salary for our leader, a breakdown of those summer and Saturday training days that I mentioned versus sub-release. We're estimating because we're going to give those teachers that voice and choice, whether they're coming on Wednesday or Saturday. So there may be some flexibility there, but our total budget, we should be pretty solid in this number that we're expecting. Bilingual, we just don't know. As of right now, we've trained everybody that we have, but if there are any changes that we just don't know about yet until that staffing is finalized, we would need to both pay the $3,000 per person that we send to Region 11 and for substitute teachers for while that teacher is getting pulled. So any questions about Reading Academy?
Any
The gift
questions
that
about Reading
keeps on
Academy?
giving.
I don't know if it keeps on giving because they didn't give us any
Keeps
money
on
for
taking.
this. They never gave us any money for this. They just told us we had to do it, so I want that on record.
Yeah, so when I'm looking over this stuff, and, you know, I don't want to put you on the spot, so maybe you can't answer this right now, or maybe this is something Dr. Harrington could answer for us later. You know, as a board, one of our jobs is to advocate for the school district and try to do what's best for the school district and talk to legislators and stuff like that. So if this wasn't required by the state, I mean, my question is this something that we would be excited about doing for ourselves, or what would we do differently?
So
opposed to
the
what's required?
logistics, I think, is what challenges us. If you speak to any of the participants that have been through this, and you have to remember that I could be a third grade math and science teacher, and I'm coming to this training. I don't even teach reading, but I'm required because I work with third grade students. From those teachers, we're getting great feedback. Because we've also been working with coordinators. Gary Adcox, our elementary math coordinator, really worked with our Reading Academy cohort leader to where are the pieces where they can see some relevance, maybe not 100%. We were working because we will have a large group of special ed teachers coming in that may see, you know, I'm not sure I see how this connects with, you know, the groups of students that I have and their needs. And so using some that came in this year that have really been, you know, a proponent of the program, and we've kind of captured some video testimonial from some of them. So the training is good. It's the logistics that have been our challenge. And if there would be, you know, maybe if we could do this as more spaced learning over time, you know, instead of 10 days in one school year, we're going to parse it out, or we're going to do instead of these 6-hour chunks, because that is required. It's a script from TEA, is this is what you're saying for 6 hours, this is what your participants are doing for 6 hours. We would spread that out differently, but really the feedback has been the learning is good. So I feel like a little bit yes and no.
Yeah, so training is basically good, but there's really no room for us to put our own spin or continuous improvement on it.
The one year that we got the best opportunity was when they allowed us, because we chose comprehensive, meaning we're fully in control. The blended was online and our teachers are on their own, and in a lot of ways we got reports of not feeling supported. And we had 1 year where we talked with our advisor from Region 11 and found out, oh wait, we can call it blended and actually make it HEB blended. That was our most exciting year to do this, because what we could do is go, this is a unit that our teachers actually do really well with. So yes, let them just do it online. We don't need them to come for 6 hours. And we were able to do that. The state found overall teachers participating in blended were unsuccessful. Therefore, they said no blended is allowed anymore. So that was our sweet spot when we could do blended our way, but right now we're back to it's only the comprehensive allowed, because in general in the state they only found comprehensive to be successful. We have continued, unless it's been something, a teacher that has left our district, or we've had some that have had to delay to another cohort, maybe out on maternity leave or something. We still have all of our, if they start with our cohort, they successfully complete Reading Academy. We've had incredible results compared to other districts. So where we can, I think the support we provide, our teachers are feeling.
Okay, thank you. All right, next, item 11.05, goals 1 and 3 scorecard data. Dr. Johnson and Ms. Tuttle.
Good evening. We are here to bring you scorecard update for goals 1 and 3. for the 4 to 6 weeks. And so goal 1, student achievement, quality indicator 1.6, increased student increased student attendance. 100% of campuses and the district will achieve 97 or more student attendance rate. And so for the 4 to 6 weeks, we are at 94.29, which still has us at a yellow status. And one thing I just want to call out is one of the things that we are studying since the impact of COVID is we don't know what goals we should be setting, because the world has really changed when it comes to student attendance. And so we continue to look at this and kind of scratch our heads and figure out, what's baseline, how do we need to adjust our goals, what can we do differently to engage students more and get them in, because we know that when kids are in school, we can teach them. So we're continuing to work on this, but we don't have a lot of answers right now because we're still studying it. So do we have any questions?
Just to follow up to that, Mr. Johnson, do you guys look at other data from other districts to maybe see a trend when you talk about post-COVID attendance?
That's what we're starting to do.
Okay.
Don't have any concrete information to bring you on that right now, but that's what we're starting to look at.
Anecdotally, from talking with other superintendents, they're all seeing the same thing, though. It is down 2 or more points. Yeah.
Cicely?
All right, so then we have our employee attendance corresponding to this quality indicator, and we are at 95.72% for our 4 to 6 weeks. And again, we're at yellow, not quite at the 97, but we're very proud of this attendance. Any questions?
Any questions about these attendance reports? Thank you. And revisions to FDA regulation and admissions, interdistrict transfers.
So we have 2 items tonight. This is the regulation, and of course, a regulation is something that we bring to you as an information item, and the regulation is going to outline specifics about the process where the local is going to be a little more specific. So this refers to our children of non-resident city employees addition to our inter-district transfer process. Any questions?
Any questions? Did you want to say anything about this?
Well, with this regulation and then the local policy, if the local policy is approved, this will go back to something we had talked about with the cities, allowing the city and full-time employees of the cities of Hurst-Euless-Bedford can transfer their students to HEB just like our employees can. From visiting with the cities, they feel they can use this as a retention plan to hang on to employees, and we feel like this is the right thing to do with our relationship with the cities. Often we're asking them for things. This is our opportunity to offer back to them.
Yeah, well, thank you for getting this done. I know on the ambassador tour, I talked a little bit about the partnership with the cities and how we worked with the city of Hurst to get the land for Bel Air, and it's these cities, these relationships that we built with the cities over the years that really help make HEB stay the place it is. So I think this is a great move. All right, we are ready for action items. 12.02, consider approval of update to the 2024-2025 staffing table.
All right, so you see the addition of a college, career, and military readiness support specialist at the BCTEA. As well as an elementary receptionist at Oakwood Terrace Elementary for enrollment purposes. We have this position at 2 other campuses that have the same enrollment. And then you see some special education units, a teacher, a FOSSI at Wilshire, and 2 teacher assistants at Wilshire. And then the addition of 4 campus security monitors. While these are on the staffing table for the 24-25 school year, we would like to go ahead and begin to look and see if we can find some of these, because we know that the sooner we can get these on board, the better jumpstart we'll have leading into next school year. Any questions?
There are no questions. I'll accept a motion.
I move that the board approve the new units as submitted.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the new units as submitted. Please vote. That motion passes. 12.03, consider approval of revisions to the board policy FDA local admissions interdistrict transfers.
And so for the good of those who are here or maybe listening online, the addition that we are proposing to this policy states that a non-resident full-time employee of the cities of Hurst-Euless, or Bedford may request that his or her child be admitted into district schools by filing an application with the superintendent. Transfer shall be granted for one regular school year at a time on a tuition-free basis. Proof of parents' employment with cities of Hurst-Euless or Bedford shall be submitted with the application, and campus assignment shall be made to the superintendent. And I do want to point out one thing, because I think it's an important educational piece. You may wonder why in a policy like this it mentions the superintendent. It doesn't say superintendent or designee. You may remember that when we did our most recent policy update, that is now inferred, and so we don't have to list that. So I want to make it clear that Dr. Harrington does not have to facilitate this process. We will have a designee working on it. Are there any questions about the revisions?
Any questions about this policy? I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approve the revisions to board policy FDA local as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the revisions to board policy FDA local as submitted. Please vote. That motion passes. 12.04, consider approval of sale of real property at 3404 Raider Drive, Hurst, Texas, 76040. Mr. Kerbo?
Good evening, Mr. Romero, Dr. Harrington. Thanks for the opportunity to present this to you. I'm going to give you an introduction to this and a little background. We've been talking about this for a while, so you know a lot about it already. Then I'm going to call on Mr. Corey Fickus from our attorney who provides our delinquent tax services. You should have a revised bid sheet in front of you there. And that's the reason why I'm here spending, and that's the reason why Mr. Fickus is working overtime tonight, so he can come in here and explain it. I'll say this as a general statement. The net result will not be any different or not much different in what's paid out as a result of this sale. So Trinity River Authority asked us in October, I think it was, when they began inquiring about this land. It's a landlocked piece of land, which we have, there's no road to it. We have no facility either adjacent to it, nor do we have any plans to add anything or improve it in any way. They have their water supply plant adjacent to it, and they need this to expand that plant. So we went through the process and actually started to put a bid together for this, and then I contacted, I found out how we came in ownership of this property and learned that it was through a tax seizure. And I thought, okay, well, it may have some different rules. So I leaned on our attorney firm and found out that actually they could handle this transaction, and there's other requirements related to this that would not be covered in a traditional bid process. So he said, send me their offer and we'll process this in that way. So we've done that. We provided a sheet to you, like I said, that has some judgments that were awarded prior to the foreclosure or the tax seizure. Then judgments that were awarded the year of the tax seizure, and then there's judgments that have incurred since that time. And this sheet right here is a breakdown of that. So that's as far as my legal expertise goes in the way of explaining this, so that I don't further confuse you. Corey, if you'd come up here, please, and take over. Here's you got a copy of it?
Yes, I've got the documents. I did remind Mr. Kerbo that we don't bill by the hour, so just sitting there looking at the news. No, thank you all for the time tonight. We don't normally come to you on a struck-off property purchase, but there are, and you have multiple sheets of paper, multiple bid sheets, because they're actually, this is a unique one, and there's two options for you, and this is what we need the decision on. Traditionally, struck-off property is very undesirable. to most people, and so it struck off because nobody wanted to buy it. And so the bid price that comes around later is much less than what is due. And so it's pretty straightforward. If you approve it, what's paid gets applied to taxes, and that's it. In this case, we've actually received an offer for significantly more than the total tax liability due, both what we took our judgment on and then what has accrued since then. There's only 1 year that accrued after our judgment, because after it was struck off, it stopped receiving a tax bill. But now that it's going to be potentially sold, there is an opportunity to apply some of the payment amount to those taxes that are post-judgment. And so the benefit of doing that is that it erases all those taxes, and if this property ever leaves the TRA's authority, which is hold, which is unlikely, but that won't be a liability for a future owner. But also because they have paid more than the judgment amount, it was believed that they might want that applied to those taxes that are post-judgment. The difference is negligible between how much you receive, whether you allow those post-judgment taxes to be paid off or not, because everything that is not covering taxes also comes back to the entities in a pro rata apportionment. And so it's whether it comes back as excess proceeds or payment of the taxes. It's our recommendation that it be applied to the taxes so that you don't have an outstanding year of taxes that's uncollected or unpaid. The total amount is $21,000, and the district's amount is about $11,200 something dollars. So it's in the grand scheme of the budget, it's not a big issue which way you go. It's a very small amount difference, but ultimately almost the exact same amount comes back, whether you choose to apply the total amount to post-judgment taxes or not. And that's the main issue that we're here to discuss.
Okay, we only have one motion, so how would we have to?
I believe there's a recommendation, and then if we go with that recommendation, that's the motion.
So just if we say as presented, or should we change it to as recommended?
What is your recommendation?
Yeah.
My recommendation would be to have the post-judgment taxes paid by the offer. If you don't do that, then those post-judgment taxes stay unpaid. Because this is a governmental entity that's purchasing this property, we couldn't pursue it against them, and so that last year would sit uncollected.
Okay. Okay, should we add the sentence, including?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
That would be if you
Let the
include
lawyer make the motion. Yeah.
I move that the board approve the sale of 3404 Raider Drive, Hurst, Texas 76040 to the Trinity River Authority as recommended, with post-judgment taxes paid by the offer.
Second.
Post-judgment taxes paid by the offer.
All right, I have a motion and a second. The board approved the sale of 3404 Raider Drive, Hurst, Texas 76040 to the Trinity River Authority as recommended, with post-judgment taxes paid by the offer. Please vote once we get the motion in.
Okay.
And that motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Ficus.
There are two documents that you will need to sign, or we have to execute. One's a resolution authorizing the sale, and the other is a deed that will go along to convey the property. We will need to make sure you get the correct form of the deed that authorizes it to be paid out of the offer.
Okay.
We'll make sure you get that.
All right. Make sure Ty gives me the right one then. All right, we're ready for open forum number 2. No cards. All right, we're down to other business. Does any board member have a item they'd like to request be placed on a future board agenda? All right, item 14.02, opportunity for the board members to participate in a budget workshop related to proposed salary increases and monthly insurance contributions for the 2024-2025 school year. Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir. So, as you know, we're still early in the budget process, but we began that process looking at staffing, and we've had discussions with board members in that regard. And as we looked at that, you should have in front of you these sheets of paper that are very similar to what we've given you during those discussions. So during that process, board members suggested and asked questions in regard to, well, in light of, how do I word this? Inactivity by the legislature to act to help our employees from a salary standpoint. What could we do as a school district to help during this time of inflationary, high inflationary need? You know, you get what I'm saying. So we went back, and of course, you know, as a transition grant district, we for many years have been setting aside those transition grant funds, rainy day fund, if you will, so that when the time came when transition grant went away, if they didn't extend that, then we would have these funds to carry us through payroll-wise to future years, through several years into the future. We still have those funds, but what has happened with the increase in the homestead exemption from 40,000 to 100,000, that shifted the formulas. So in short, what that did was that took us out of, we are no longer a transition grant district. So we're not going to face that funding cliff from transition grants going away. But we still have these funds. So this gave us the opportunity to take those funds we've been setting aside and basically repurpose them to maybe provide some relief to our employees in the form of an employee raise and health insurance cost increase. So what I've given you is these 3 sheets of paper, which are very similar to what you looked at before. All we've done is we've incorporated, the first page is a 0% raise. The second page shows a 1% raise with the highlighted part at the top, yellow. That's the year we're talking about, 24-25 school year. And then the third sheet is with a 2% raise. In addition, we have incorporated into the overall numbers the impact of taking the district and state currently provide health insurance on behalf of the employee in the amount of $225 per month. This is proposing an increase, as we know, we looked at it earlier, to be compliant with Affordable Care Act standards. With some of our lower paid employees, the board already acted to increase that for some employee groups by $50. What this will do will increase all employees that take out health insurance from the current $225 to a total of $300 per month to provide some further increase. So that coupled with the raise, you know, will determine the total benefit to the employees. So the easiest way to look at that is the highlighted blue line at the top. That is basically how much money we're going to be taking from our payroll set-aside fund or our transition grant funds. Each year, what we're projecting to balance our budget under each scenario. So you can see, if you flip back to say the 2% raise, that would take us out to the 26-27 year before we would actually start dipping into fund balance. We would use up our payroll fund and dip into fund balance. Now, keep in mind, these are really conservative numbers, so I would fully expect we wouldn't even dip into fund balance at that year. It would take us totally through the 26-27 years. So you've got 2 sessions, legislative sessions, that are going to come up in the interim that will hopefully, something will change down there in Austin. So I'm trying to think. The only other thing, I mean, these numbers are not solid. They're solid, but they're not, these numbers continue to ebb and flow a little bit, not much, just very little, based off of current projections, and ultimately when we get our property values, that will change these numbers possibly on the revenue side, but that will just shift it from local revenue to state revenue. It really won't change the bottom line of the revenue figure. So these numbers are really pretty solid. The only other thing we have incorporated in here is something we've discussed doing, and this year we just feel like this is the time to do it, is when we do give a raise, in the past, the lower pay grades, the aides, the custodians, all those people, they get like a 1%, 2%, 3% raise on their salary. Whereas the upper pay grades have been given traditionally the midpoint. Well, TASB's, the way they recommend that these scales work is that they be given on the midpoint for all scales. And what that does is that keeps your pay scales from growing. Because if you give somebody a raise, say a 2% raise that's off their salary and they're at the bottom of that pay scale, and you give somebody a 2% raise that's at the top of that pay scale, the person at the top obviously gets a bigger raise. So by doing it off the midpoint, everybody in that pay grade gets the same raise, same dollar amount raise. And what that does is that pulls the scale back to the middle, and then so say you give a 2% raise, typically what you'll do is you'll increase your pay scale overall, the minimum, midpoint, and maximum, by half of that amount, or 1%. Doesn't always work out to exactly that amount, but we work out the numbers to where it all works. And it keeps the pay scales intact. What that'll also do is puts us equal to what the vast majority of other districts do. And in the overall, this will benefit our lower paid employees, the vast majority of them, by doing that. And it's a minimal impact to the budget, less than $100,000 total minimum impact to the overall budget. So with that, we can return it back to Matt and for discussion. And Ms. Tuttle and I will do the best we can to answer questions. Mr. Jones, I will say, he was going to be here tonight, but he is, I told Joe he was coaching baseball. I was incorrect. He's coaching hockey. His kiddos are playing hockey. So anyway, he's coaching hockey, and I said, Stephen, I think I got this. Go ahead, go coach your kids. We'll take care of this. If I need you, I'll text you. So.
All right, are there any questions or discussion from the board?
So, Cicely, I just have one question about the last thing that he said. What's the dramatic impact of moving everything to the middle? I mean, do we have a lot of them on the outliers on the low end or the high end that are going to be affected by that?
It really is going to benefit the majority of our employees to do this, Mr. Campos. As a matter of fact, when Dobie was talking about looking at your system as a whole and really reducing compression in those pay grades, this is actually a step in the right direction, and it really doesn't just align us with other districts and what they're doing, but it really helps us as we look to, in the future, continue to find equity across pay grades.
Gotcha. And then one follow-up question. I'm glad it affects the majority. How long have we done it differently than the other districts?
We have only ever provided the midpoint increase for one of our salary schedules out of 4 that are non-teaching. And my history only goes back 2 decades, but that we have been doing it that way.
Okay.
Other districts have been doing it the other way for that time period. And so again, we can't speak to the past, but we can say that we think moving forward, this is a positive move for us.
Okay.
So the recommendation on the next item differentiates between a salary increase for teachers and a midpoint salary increase for everybody else. Is the recommendation, I want to make sure I'm reading it right, is the recommendation on the midpoint for everyone except for teachers?
That's correct. All individuals who are on a salary schedule as opposed to the teacher step schedule would experience the percent raise to the midpoint.
Yeah, the teachers are on a different schedule. So you always had the teachers who would be paid directly on that step. We had groups of employees that were on a minimum, midpoint, maximum scale, but not all of those were paid to the midpoint. And so by moving everyone to the midpoint, this is actually, again, for many of our lower employees, this will increase. Like they said, it will probably cost around $100,000, but it is getting us back to where we probably should be. So I don't know that this would negatively affect anyone.
There would be very minimal. There would be a few people who might not have
Might
the
be
exact same
even.
that they had in the past, but we're talking about a 0.01%. I just want to make sure for those in the room who may not understand compensation, what we are not talking about is moving employees to the midpoint. I want to make sure that is very clear because this can be very confusing.
It is
And so I just don't want any misunderstanding. We are not talking about adjusting employee salaries. We're talking about ensuring that we're treating all employees who are not on a step salary pay grade as the same, that we're providing equity across the
Everyone in
organization.
that group, their raise is 2% of the midpoint of their group. And everyone in that would get that raise.
And my question is on stipends, so that's figured in here as well, right? The increase to the stipends?
Many of our stipends do get that increase. There are a few who don't, and it has to do with the budgets that may or may not be able to absorb that. Maybe federal budgets, things of that nature. But yes, you are correct. Anything that you are seeing in that figure is including those stipends that would receive that increase.
All right, any other questions? Would anybody like to make a, well, if we go down to 14.03, would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that the board approve a 2% salary increase for teachers, a 2% to the midpoint salary increase for paraprofessionals, auxiliary, technical, administrative, professional employees, and an increase in the district's health insurance premiums from $225 monthly to $300 monthly for the 2024-2025 school year.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, to approve the administration's recommendation that the board approve a 2% salary increase for teachers and a 2% to the midpoint salary increase for paraprofessionals, auxiliary, technical, administrative, professional employees, and an increase to the district's health insurance premiums from $225 monthly to $300 monthly for the 2024-2025 school year. Please vote.
I just want to add that you didn't have to see a bunch of discussion amongst this board because I believe we are pretty much unanimous in support of this. And I want to add thank you to our administration and in time of legislative doing nothing that we still have the ability to do this due to very conservative savings over a long period of time. Thank you.
That motion passes. So you can spread the word, Ms. Tuttle.
She's off to do that right now.
And I want to thank the board because with the legislature not providing us this opportunity, the board seeing the need, the inflation, and taking care of our people. Guys, we're a great district because we have great people. And so we need to take care of them and keep them. Yeah.
Thank you. And we do not need a second closed session, is that correct? Then I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned.
I have the paper.